Welcome back to part 3 of this vlog, and this one is all about the school board meeting. All of the time and preparation that you've put into this event, your team has studied and prepared, you've communicated everything internally prior to the board meeting to make sure there are no surprises. Now it's time to execute. Welcome to SuperInsights. Let's go. It's actually the day after the school board meeting, and I am tired. I'm so proud of how well the board meeting went last night, but the gavel dropped to close the official board meeting at 9:30 last night. I didn't end up leaving the school board room until about 10:30 and ended up arriving at home about 11 o'clock. My kids were in bed, my wife in bed, and so those are always just tremendously late days. And it's just a full day of communication. So I'm typically just exhausted when I come home, and I'm exhausted the next day because so much work goes into preparing for a great school board meeting. One piece of very important advice that I got from a mentor when I was early in the superintendency that I want to share with you. This is a legitimate pro tip, so I hope you hear this. This person told me in my first year of being a superintendent that you always want to be the very last person to leave a school board meeting. And the why behind that is actually quite humorous, but also quite true. If you're the last person there, then being able for the school board to speak with you is a whole lot better than when you leave early, because then people are going to be talking about you. And so that's just something that's resonated with me. And that is, again, to have a healthy relationship, to make sure that, people aren't saying things about me or having criticisms about me without my presence, just goes a long way to, long longevity in this role. And so I do strongly recommend, if you're a superintendent or if you're aspiring to be a superintendent, one of the things that they don't teach you is at the end of the school board meeting, just be the last person to leave. That way you're still in control of every dialogue that's occurring through that process. Our April school board meeting was exceptional last night, and our board was so prepared. And we had some real doozies last night for sure. And so I just want to commend our board and commend the night we had last night, mainly because our board was so prepared, and our leadership team who was rolling these things out were extremely prepared and were able to speak in terms that were easy to understand, not only for the board of directors, but for the community at large. Last night as a whole was not an easy, typical April board meeting. In fact, it was quite complex, and it was still a smooth school board meeting due to the preparation that was invested into that. And I talk more about that in episode 1 and episode 2 about preparing for the school board meeting. Here are some tips and tricks that I have learned in my journey about setting up a successful school board meeting. And the first 2 are absolutely paramount that I recommend you try. The first is always start off your school board meeting with school board reports. This is a great way to start a school board meeting in an extremely positive way. This gives each school board member the opportunity to share something positive, either that they experienced or were a part of over the course of the last month. Like, for example, we had a school board member that attended a track meet, and that gives them the opportunity to recognize our track coach and all of the people who put on a successful meet, ultimately leading to our school's team, high school team success. Or we had another school board member that attended a curriculum adoption open house so that they could, with our community, review the potential adopted health curriculum and make sure that the health curriculum reflected its community's vision and values. They're able to speak about that, and that's so important in 2 ways. One, and most importantly, it starts the school board meeting off in a positive light. Secondly, it gives them the opportunity to demonstrate to the public that they are visible, they are involved, and they are in fact playing a leadership role in the oversight of the school district as a whole. I absolutely love it. It also gives them the opportunity, as they give the reports, to ask me to answer questions and or present about or talk about something different or something that they'd like to hear in the superintendent report. So this is just one final check when it comes to no surprises to say, here's my track report. It went really well. I went to the high school musical. So amazing to see these kids. And Superintendent Carpenter, I'd like you later on in your report to speak more about how we're funding arts in education in our school district, or something like that as an example. So starting off with board reports is always a great way to start because it starts with the positive. The other major tip that I would like to recommend to you is always end. The very last agenda item is end with comments from citizens for non-action items. I am a weird guy. I think you can establish that by now by watching these vlogs, but I love watching other school districts' school board meetings. It's just something I enjoy doing to learn, to grow, and to be better. I encourage you to do the same because you can pick up from so much from watching other school district school board meetings. But one of the things that I've deduced over my time of watching other districts' meetings is some school districts put comments from citizens for non-action items in the front. And here's the problem that I see with that. One, the people who come to talk about non-action items, for the most part, have a concern or are relatively have something negative to say, either be that about employees, be that about decisions, be that about the superintendent. You pick it. It's been said at a school board meeting, just frustration. And I believe in that. There has to be a great spot for the community, for parents, and for employees to communicate frustrations to the executive board of directors. This is an important process that should be valued. However, by doing it at the beginning of the school board meeting does two harmful things. First of all, it prolongs the meeting. When you're typically making a hot topic decision, such as reconfiguring schools, you start to get large groups of people filling the school board, each of them taking a 3-minute turn to share their frustrations, suggestions, etc. The problem with that is you're an hour into the school board meeting and you haven't done any actual business yet. And so I think you set yourself up for failure when you do it in the front end. The second problem with making that comment from citizens for non-action items at the front end is the people who are the most disgruntled about what the school district is doing. Once they give their 3-minute speech, they leave. So they never get the opportunity to witness, observe, or see with their own eyes a lot of the great work that the school district is doing. Because what I have found over time is the people who come in disgruntled, they still are, and they still read their speech just as if they would in the first one. But more often than not, they typically start that speech with, I had no idea that this type of work was going on, and I commend the school district for that. But I'm angry about this. And so it's just been such a win for us to really make the front and the back be strategic in that way, really allowing people who are upset to see the full process in action before they take cheap shots or things of that nature. Now, when I say that, I'm not minimizing the importance of that factor. Like I said at the beginning, there has to be a spot for disgruntled, frustrated, mad, angry people to share with their elected school board members their frustrations about the district. I value that time deeply. I just like it to be at the end. Then we follow that with other district reports. We typically start with our operations report, so we can talk about facilities and maintenance. We can talk about utilities and utilities expenses, get the opportunity to highlight our transportation, technology, and nutrition staff data and results so the board can be apprised on the operations wing of the school district. After that, we follow that up with a communications report, and our communications director shares all of the communications, all of the big events, and other hot topics through social media and other engagements that our communications team and department is going through. By the way, if you don't have a communications team, you're missing out. 10 years ago, to say you were hiring a communications director was looked as waste and fraud. Today, it is absolutely vital to a superintendent's success to have a communications communications expert alongside them, supporting them in best-in-class communication, both internally and externally. After that, we then give our business and finance report so we can give the board and the community a transparent depiction of where we're at throughout the course of the year, of where we started and where we project we're going to be ending, to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible and good stewards of taxpayer money. And then at the conclusion of this report process is when the superintendent gives his report. And this is the final part of the district reports. And I place myself last on purpose. And that is so I can just clean up anything that either wasn't said, might have been confusing, and an opportunity just to put an exclamation point on all of the great work happening inside our school district. So I typically have between 4 to 6 different bullet points that I've already pre-scripted of things that I'm going to talk about or set up for upcoming presentations. Then, if any school board member in their report had a request or wished for some more information, that's my opportunity to address that right there for all school board members. Or maybe one board member wrote me an email earlier in the week with a question. This is my opportunity to say, hey, school board member A wrote me an email asking me these questions. I responded back to him or her, but here is the discussion that we talked about, because again, no surprises. I want to share it with everybody, the work that's happening. And then lastly, if our operations, communications, or finance report either forgot something or something was confusing, this is my opportunity either to highlight their work or celebrate some wins, but also clarify anything that might be there. And so starting with the board and then working through the different departments to make sure that the board is fully briefed on the monthly data and the monthly outcomes is absolutely critical. After the report section is then when we move to the presentation section. This is typically when our local school district leadership experts come to the front and start to begin their presentation to brief, educate, and recommend to our school board the district's decisions or the recommendations of the district. This is such an awesome opportunity because one, our board has been prepared in advance, and so they understand what's coming their way, and now they get to see the full story with data, with research, and all of the above to help them make the best decision on that specific evening. This is such an opportunity also for the superintendent to empower the leaders inside the school district to come to the board and give their presentation, which showcases their talent. They have the full supporting and the backing of the superintendent, and it's always a wonderful process. And so we start with the local presentations first, people inside our district. And then if there are outside presentations, like say from a regional ESD, if you have people like that, or just other types of outside third-party firms that are trying to sell or advocate something to our district, this is the part in the presentations as well. But we always lead off with our district first, really just to kind of showcase and highlight the great things happening in our district. We want those outside people to have to sit there and watch our school district work through and process hot topics and key decisions. And we want them to watch our board processes for as long as possible. We're really proud of our school board meetings, and we're really pleased with the processes and our formal use of the Roberts Rules of Order and all of the above. And for our school board members and for the public watching, this is the one time a month where we truly get to showcase, show off, and exercise what a good functioning executive board meeting looks like in the public. And so I love doing that. And just in full transparency, I love the outside people who have to sit there and watch it because I really do think it is special. And if you want to talk to our board, you have to wait and you have to watch us do our work first, which always gives people a great impression when they exit our school board meetings. And I just think they walk away more impressed with our school district than when they started. And this is all by design. and it's all intentional. And once the presentations and reports have been completed, this is when we get to board action items. And so we always start with citizen comments for action items. In my 7 years of being a superintendent, we typically have less here. We do have them, but this is one that is less talked about from the community and or its citizens. And so we open up that forum. Of course, they have 3 minutes to speak and present. Our board listens and says thank you. We never have dialogue, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But we listen, and then we move directly to the action items. Typically starts with approving any employee hires, resignations, retirements, or terminations. Then we go through the policies, and we typically get our policies from our school board association. We don't typically write our own. I know some districts do, but we try our best just to keep it simple. If it's a new law or if it's required by our school board association, then we do it. If it's recommended or just encouraged to do it, we do not do it. We also try to eliminate as many ARs as possible. We really try to run on a skinny policy, making things just easier to work through and not being bound by a litany of policies that are not required or ARs that are just too cumbersome to find when you're looking for it. So we go through policies, and then we go line item by line item when it comes to actions. And our board and myself always feel confident because we've done the hard work in advance to make sure everybody is briefed and has the information. We took one extra step to make sure that the board heard it on public record for the public to hear about all the things that we're doing and why and how we got to this recommendation. And so when it's time to vote, because of our no surprises policy, our board is ready to cast their vote, their own vote, their freedom to vote, based on the information that they have compared with the school community's vision and values, and they can cast their votes. And sometimes it's unanimous, sometimes it's not. All of which is perfectly okay. I sleep great at night because I know I gave them all the information that they needed to make whatever vote they made. And I'm always proud and appreciative of that. And I smile no matter what the outcome is because we did our job. And that's so rewarding, and it just feels good. And it's just fun to watch the process happen. This is the Norman Rockwell picture at work. This is a represented body of elected citizens who are making decisions about their school district. Please never forget that the school district belongs to the community. They own their local school district, and it's our responsibility to execute the vision of that community. We always get in trouble when we go away from the community's values. And so I just want to really highlight the fact that I'm so proud to always watch our elected board members oversee their school district and make decisions that impact their school district. And then the fun can begin. And this is the final bullet pointed agenda, and that is comments from citizens for non-action items. And this is the opportunity for the community to voice their concerns, their agendas, and their advocation for something happening inside our school district. And so, the groups of people, the army of people who are in there, or just the one or two people that are in there, or sometimes it's nobody, but then they get their opportunity. They've had to sit through the whole entire process. They get to see how the process is done. They get to see the transparency of how all of it works, and then they can come up and give their 3-minute presentation. Now, here's something that you need to work with your board chair and vice chair, and you need to practice this. You need to talk about it regularly, and you just need to continue to build their skills and capacities to handle it. Because here's what's most important about this section of the school board meeting, the comments section, and that is, at no time is it appropriate for the school board, the superintendent, or any school district official to try to solve the problem there. And so our school board has done a great job of building capacity because remember, a school board meeting is a meeting in the public. It is not a public meeting. So the whole purpose of a school board meeting is to conduct the meeting out in the open. And so this is an opportunity for people to comment and or share their beliefs or dissatisfactions, but this is not a two-way interaction between board members and the concerned citizen. And so what we do in our school district, and we've been very disciplined about it, is we have a timer and we are very strictly adhering to that 3 minutes. Once that 3-minute horn beeps, our board chair interrupts that presentation, thanks them kindly and empathetically, and then moves on to the next person. If you let just one person ever speak over that 3-minute thing, then the next people who come and do it will just assume they get to do it, and they'll be turned off and outraged quickly if you let one person go over 3 minutes and you cut them off at 3 minutes. So it doesn't matter who you are, what your topic is, you get 3 minutes, and after 3 minutes, you are shut down or off, or your time is expired. We also have a hard, fast rule that you're allowed as a school board member to ask clarifying questions, but you never ask the superintendent, because this is where surprises would happen, is to say, hey, Ryan, what are you guys doing about that? Or we never affirm the comment, even though they might agree with it. Nobody ever says, thank you for bringing that point. I agree with your frustration, because all that does is spiral the board meeting into a negative section. But that doesn't mean that no action takes place. That doesn't mean that the citizen wasn't heard. Typically, when we have people come through and share their concerns or voice their frustrations, the board has trust and faith in me that I'm going to follow up the days after the school board meeting. And so when people sign up to talk, they leave their name and contact information, and it's my responsibility to reach out to those people afterwards to listen more and to talk more about what the school district is either doing or not doing, or what we can do about that specific situation and or circumstance. Because again, at the end of the day, the superintendent is the board's one and only employee. And this process that I just shared with you about listening, saying thank you, and being consistent at 3 minutes, it only works if I close the loop. And so once the school board meeting is over, basically the board says, you got that, you got that, you got that. And that's my responsibility to execute on the board's wishes when it comes to that. And so my team and myself were meeting with either the groups of people or the people who, spoke, to make sure that we're again listening to them and showing our true commitment to trying to fulfill our obligations to the community. And so it is paramount, if there's one thing to take away from the comment section of this vlog, is you have to follow up in order to support and protect your school board. I hope this was a helpful 3-part series to you. One of the things that leads to a superintendent's termination quicker than anything else is a bad relationship between the school board and its superintendent. And so here is how I, over the last 7 years, have set up my school board meetings, ultimately allowing for a healthy and great school board relationship and a consistent process that employees and our communities have come to expect, trust in, and rely upon. And it starts with my superintendent cabinet 2 days or a week or 2 weeks prior to the school board meeting, making sure that we're getting prepared, studying, and that I am downloading all of the big things happening in our district so that I can answer them in the school board meeting. And then I have breakfast with 3 school board members, the chair, vice chair, and an additional person. And we together go over the school board agenda so everybody has deep knowledge about what's going on. I then follow up with the other school board members individually, as do the other members who were there at that breakfast, to brief all of our school board members. So everybody comes to the meeting prepared. And the afternoon before the school board meeting, I communicate the agenda of the school board to all employees in my employee forum. And so for us in my school district, when the second Wednesday of every month at 7:00 p.m., when that gavel bangs, we are ready to go to be transparent, honest, vulnerable, and work through a consistent process. Thanks so much for joining Super Insights. I so greatly appreciate the community that we're building, and I wish you the best of luck as you improve your school board meetings, ultimately allowing you to be the best school leader you can be. That's why we're here. Have a great week.